So yesterday at that estate sale, one of the bins had a ton of indie fantasy skirmishy wargamey books. My exact kind of nonsense, right? This is the kind of stuff that I absolutely love. I had a couple of these titles before, but they were all in one bin at a fixed price. So let's go through them because there's some very cool stuff in here. First up, here's like a sort of real off-brand cut. This is Old Bones. This is the zine that Joseph McCullough, the creator of Frostgrave, puts out. And in it is some fiction and some rules for how to use this crocodilian race in all of his game systems: Frostgrave, Stargrave, Rangers of Shadowdeep, etc. And it's just like, it's such a nice little book, and I love it. Next up, we have an RPG adventure. It says Nest of the Entomancer? Question mark. There's a huge bug, right? In the back, there's some character sheets, some pre-gens. Haven't cracked into it yet, but fun. This is Deathship 1. Originally, this was published in the Blaster Tabletop Gaming Anthology magazine, but this is it as a standalone perfect bound book. I really dig just the 3-color printing, the red, black, and white. But this is sort of a sci-fi. Your group of low, mid, or high-tech troops is beamed up into Deathship 1, and you're trying to fight your way through and to escape against the alien horrors. It's sort of like a Predator proving ground kind of thing. Next up, this is the first book I already owned. This is 5 Parsecs from Home by Ivan Sorensen. This book is super freaking good. It's a solo, pretty much exclusively solo sci-fi skirmish game, but it really blends the wargaming element and the RPG element very well. There's a ton of points of interest, and you're kind of always randomizing the outcomes of your post-battle progress and like what is driving these battles, how are your characters evolving, and narrating. The general gist of it is kind of like Firefly. You've got a ship and it's expensive, and you're trying to get out of debt, and so you're trying to take jobs and win prizes to pay yourself out of debt. But you know that's always a great plot point for any sort of less than honorable set of adventurers in a sci-fi setting. So I'm going to pause this and we'll go again. All right, continuing through the Stack O books. This is Frostgrave Second Edition. This book has been kind of covered to the ends of the earth. If you've seen any sort of miniatures wargaming online, you've heard of Frostgrave at this point. It's a great system. I only have the first edition, but the general gist is that you control a wizard and their apprentice, and you hire in some mercenaries, and you're plundering this old archaeological site. Basically, you're going back to the city that is now called Frostgrave after it's been buried under ice for generations, and it's starting to thaw out. The second edition makes some changes to the team building aspect of the game, so that if you perform poorly in campaign play, you don't like permanently lose troops. You always have access to some cheap expendable ones. Next up, there's a bunch of Rangers of Shadowdeep content, both in fanzines and official supplements. I haven't played Rangers yet, so I can't comment on it too much, but there's at least, I think, 4 of these in there. All right, and most of these are going to be new scenarios. Some of them will have new character information, new enemies, also a list of each scenario, what kind of miniatures you can expect to encounter. Next up, this is like a printed copy. I guess they had a PDF. This is Carniverse by Nick Wilkins. Let's see if we can get to the byline here. So he talks about his fascination with dinosaurs. Where is the goods? The general gist of this is that end of the world and dinosaurs are out to get you, right? There's some narrative tossed in there, all kinds of character special rules and abilities, and I'm gonna put like some binder clips or something on this to make it a little bit more useful. But I'm excited to read through that. And then this is a find I'd never even heard of before. This is the first thing I saw in there, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" This is Cutlass. It's by Gav Thorpe and Adam Clark, and this is from 2010, 2011. It is a fantasy pirate skirmish game. So folks who are playing Blood and Plunder and Port Royale, this is sort of the fantasy take on that. And you can see the back cover here. There's sort of swashbuckling orcs. The presentation is really beautiful. I haven't gone through the rules just yet. That's on my to-do list. But I was absolutely blown away to see something like this in there because I'd never even heard of it before. Next up, we have 2 copies of Dracula's America Hunting Grounds. The actual core rulebook for Dracula's America wasn't in here, but Dracula's America Shadows of the West is a weird West setting. So there's magic, there's vampires. This particular expansion adds, let's see, we've got the Shadow Dragon Tong and the Accursed Forsaken Cavalry. There's also new scenarios, a narrative campaign. I don't know if Dracula's America is still around. I'd have to take a look. But this is probably, something like this is the closest you'd see me to playing anything set in the 1850s, 1870s, any of that. Because that's too real for me. Anything more modern than like medieval is somebody's grandpa or great-grandpa. And I don't really want to make a game of that. Next up is Rangers of Shadow Deep itself. Again, he had printed this one at home. Rangers of Shadow Deep is a solo and co-op take, kind of on Frostgrave, but you're a bit more, a bit less magical, a bit more fighting your way through the darkness of the woods. It's a long-form narrative game where you've got all kinds of interesting tables and scenarios that you're going to work through, and there's been a ton of supplements over the years. There's even been a nice bound printing from Modiphius. I don't have that here, but here's some even more of the expansions: Dungeons in the Dark and Incinerator. And then here's a poster for the Rangers of Shadow Deep, the official figures from North Star. Next up, we have 3 of the books from Snarling Badger Studios, those being Adam Loper and Vince Venturella. This is Space Station Zero. It is, in a way, like Deathship in that you're sort of a small, more RPG-style group, kind of trapped on a space station, but this is a bit more like punk in aesthetic. The general gist is that your ship has a failure and you end up waylaid at this space station that nobody can ever escape. And so you fight your way into the station to try and learn more about it and see if there's any way to return to your normal life. It is like, it's not necessarily a roguelike, but it is designed to be lethal and for you to perhaps have to play the game a few times to get all the way to the ending. Next up is Rain and Hell. This is one that I had. This is their first game. It's demons fighting for supremacy over what's left of hell after it's been sort of war-torn when humanity invaded hell. So you basically make an overlord, and you from each of the different clans of demons, and you fight for supremacy. There's some campaign play rules in here. There's also a narrative campaign that you can get online. The Obsidian Spear, the Occult Spear, Oculus Spear, I think that's it. And that's pay what you want. So if you wanted to play solo or co-op, that would be the way to go. And this one is totally new to me. This is Death Wizards. As far as I know, you are a necromancer, and let's read it together. Death Wizards is a miniature agnostic tabletop wargame in which you're a powerful necromancer, commanding your undead minions against the villages and heroes of death. Oh, that's funny. Death and death. Designed for solo play, co-op play, or as an adversarial skirmish game, Death Wizards is created by Adam and Vince for up to 4 players. All right. I don't know if you know this about me, but I love painting skeletons. That is like the best thing to paint if you're like burnt out on your hobby or if you just want to feel good. Skeletons paint cheap and fast, and they're great. And so I have a whole bunch of undead stuff. So this is definitely this is definitely getting played. This might be something really impressive to like bring to the library too, because you could have a whole kind of horde. All right, a couple more books. We'll do one more. This is the indie miniatures game. Um, there's nothing else exactly like it. So this is Gaslands. This is the second printing, the refueled version. It reorganizes the rules so they're a little bit easier to digest, and it contains some of the expanded content. Gaslands, you play with Hot Wheels cars. This is like the most approachable miniatures game probably in the world. I'm sure there are like some other indie ones, but this is the one that got big. So you buy a Hot Wheels car, you paint some dirt on it, and it's basically the primary scenario is a death race, right? There's a whole narrative about how this is set in the future, where the ultra rich have abandoned Earth for Mars, and so these guys are competing to get a shuttle up to Mars to live a wealthier and relaxed lifestyle. There's a little bit of butt crack for you. Bring the views up. And the game is built for like cascading explosions, right? This is not just Mario Kart where you all have a power up and you fight each other. It is a true destruction derby. If a car gathers too many hazards, which it could happen from skidding or being shot at or anything like that, it can flip over. And if it flips over, it can land on other cars and they can take hazards and they can flip over. And if a car has too much hazards and damage combined, they can explode and explode other cars. It's like a very sort of cascading. It builds it slowly, and then you're like, oh crap, we're all going 500 miles an hour and everyone is dead kind of game. Oh, there's a dog peeing on a car. Nice. It's got a lot of silly stuff to it too. This is the one to get started with. Here's another huge Rangers of Shadow Deep book. This one's still sealed, so I'm not going to go through it. This is an RPG. This is 7th Sea. I've heard of 7th Sea as a card game. I'm curious what the overlap is. But it's a game of intrigue and romance in the 7th Sea. 7th Sea itself, we're looking at the map here, right? It's fantasy Europe. All right, there's nothing too unexpected here. But I'm excited to take a look through that because I bet it's got some killer art. And then last but not least, speaking of art, this book is just art. This is the art compendium from Time of Legends, Joan of Arc. He had already sold off all of the actual gameplay assets when I got there, but there's something in here that is like a holy grail for me. Let me see if we can find him. When this game came out, they were doing a bunch of expansions. This was by Mythic Games, who have basically dissolved under their own weight as a sacrifice to the Kickstarter gods, basically. Let me see if I can find it. We'll cut this one. This is the art compendium for Time of Legends, Joan of Arc. The guy at the estate sale didn't have any gameplay elements left. He had sold it in a big bunch. I don't know that I could have afforded it anyway because it's hard to come by now. This is by Mythic Games, who pretty much collapsed under their own weight in Kickstarters. I don't know all of the drama. I didn't keep up on it. But this miniature line contains like my holy grail miniature. This is the one thing, this dragon, if I could ever find one of these, I would trade or sell pretty much anything to get it. Its wingspan, this is like a 10 or 15 millimeter game. The wingspan on this dragon is like 2.5 feet across. This thing, it's so impractical and excessive, and it's just to see it against, a knight the size of my finger down here, it would just be, a really beautiful thing to behold. When they launched the Kickstarter preview for this, the guy was cradling it like the size of a medium dog in his arms just to get it in shot. And there's some painting tutorials in here. This is their Tarask, the sort of turtle dragon demon. There's some narrative pieces in here, some explanations of the various paintings, and then just like a ton of pretty good fantasy art. Right? This is a lot of stuff you'd be perfectly happy to see in any of your game books. Look at that. That's my nonsense. Oh, God. Look at that. He's got no jaw, but he's got a horse that has like a huge jaw. Like, yeah. I drove for like 5 hours yesterday to get all this stuff. And this is like one box of 4 or 5. And I would drive probably double that seeing this all now, because this is just like a lifetime's worth of cool stuff to explore. So that's it for the big stack of books. We'll go through the next box soon.